Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Brandt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association, and welcome to This Week at Work.
This Week at Work is the only show about the workplace that offers you front row seats and a microphone, featuring experts in human resources and employment law to bring you practical, timely, and accurate insights so you can more effectively lead your organization. It's Thursday, February 15th, episode 266. Today, tune in to learn how to transform individual stars into extraordinary machine-like teams. Discover the insights of Lee Rubin, an emerging voice in motivational speaking and a master at articulating winning principles for professional success. Between a robust background working with Fortune 500 companies and a history of academic and athletic excellence at Penn State, Lee brings a wealth of experience and understanding to the show. So don't stop short of the goal line by handing it off to one player. Push it into the end zone with the winning team. All this and more on This Week at Work.
Oh, Nikki, did you just say tush push? We can't, this is not that kind of a program, Nick. We don't need to be drawing attention to ourselves and having that kind of PG-13 conversation online here. What is that, Nick?
Hey, for those who know about the tush push, they know. So
It's a football phrase for anyone who doesn't
everybody
know,
working
right?
together. That was the point. All right.
Yeah, that's where the quarterback just does like quarterback sneak is what it used to be called. And in today's world of politically correctness, someone's named it tush push. And I don't think that fits our program. So Nick, keep that stuff out of the program. I am sure our lawyer on the clock, Justin, welcome back to the program, would tell you stay away from that language, Nick. Justin, good morning. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for stepping in for Bert as he's out making his legal ways forward.
Happy to do so. And, I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan, so I'm no fan of the Philadelphia Eagles tush push. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. And we also have Lee Rubin with us. Lee is an extraordinary public speaker, HR professional, and someone that is definitely making waves across the country. We're happy to have him on and introduce him for the first time to our audience. Lee, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Phil. Great to be here. Excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, and I know you're a defensive player and you don't want to be defined by your days on the football field. I don't either because I was a field goal kicker, so I need to be very careful of that during my college career. So the tush push is not something you would be involved in either as a defensive player, but stopping it.
Yeah, making sure whoever's pushing, whoever's sneaking doesn't get across that goal line or cross the first down marker. Absolutely.
All right. That's all I'm going to bring up on college football today. All right. We got some poll questions to get to before we get to our lawyer on the clock. First one is, and starts with a sliding scale. And you can enter with this one on a chance to win an autographed copy of Bet on Talent by last week's guest, Deanne Turner. Always a great guest for us to have on the program. She was the vice president of HR for Chick-fil-A for most of her career. She's written 3 different books now. She does a great job. We love to have Deanne on the program, and she
Phil,
is
so the audience will see that on the first poll question is essentially enter for your chance to win this autographed book.
All right, so we're just entering to win. That's the question, right?
Yeah, easy.
Okay, good. All right, and then the second one is, help me out here, Nick, if I get it wrong. Is this the developing its people resources?
That is correct.
All right, good. So when developing people resources, would you say your organization focuses more towards individual skill sets or team building? Think about how you're developing your people. Are you doing it together as a team? Are you doing it individually? Are you doing it for the benefit of the team? Let us know what's going on there. There's a sliding scale for that. And then the final question there is, trust is a great thing to have. If your team has trust, what benefit can that bring your team? Open-ended question. It's a great thing to have. And you might say our team doesn't have trust, and if that's okay, if you do, just let us know that as well. Trust is my key word. Just let everyone know, you have a key word as a leader. For me as a leader, first thing I start with as a leader starts with trust. People got to trust me. They got to trust my consistency. They have to trust who I'm going to try and be every single day. They got to know what they're going to get from me. And they got to know that I'm always going to be open, honest, and transparent to the best of my abilities. And that's where everything starts with me for trust. That's my key word. All my employees know that's my key word. So love to get your thoughts on that as well. All right. Are you ready, Justin, for the fastest 6 or 12 minutes? Bert sometimes makes it 15. Today, we'll keep it close to 6. I know you got other business to do, but we got some good things to talk about. If you're ready, I'm going to ask Nick to pull that lever, Nick.
I'm ready.
All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
So it's not often that an EEOC commissioner is making mainstream headline news, and it's even less frequent that we'd be talking about federal anti-discrimination standards in the mainstream media. But a few weeks ago, a couple of tweets on the platform formerly known as Twitter put the EEOC and Title VII into the spotlight. Maverick's co-owner and Shark Tank star Mark Cuban, Indiana University's own Mark Cuban, tweeted out, they've never hired anyone based exclusively on race, gender, religion. I only hire the person that will put my business in the best position to succeed. And here's where it gets a little interesting, Phil. He says, and yes, race and gender can be part of the equation. I view diversity as a competitive advantage. Now, if you're an HR professional, this tweet should be setting off some potential alarm bells, some red flags. And they did for EEOC Commissioner Andrea Lucas, who tweeted back, unfortunately, you're dead wrong on black letter Title VII law. As a general rule, race and sex can't even be a motivating factor, nor a plus factor, tiebreaker, or a tipping point. It's important employers understand the ground rules here. So, Phil, who do you think is right on the law here? Mr.
Oh,
Q?
gosh. Now you're practicing exactly what Bert does to me. You put me on the spot in almost a no-win situation, right? Because
It is.
I think I understand a little bit of what Mark is trying to say. And I also understand exactly what the EEOC is trying to say. And I agree what I think both sides are trying to get to. And I think if we put them in a room together alone quietly and they just talked it out, they might agree with each other more than they would disagree with each other. So I support what the EEOC is trying to do. And I agree with them. And I would need to better understand Mark Cuban's intent of that message. And I think it's really hard to take, a snippet and put context around it to understand examples. So I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just saying I agree with the EEOC, and we're going to always work to comply with that. But I am always in favor. We are going to hire the best person for the job. Now, if that means this person is going to give my business a better advantage over another person, and race and gender, ethnicity, all these things start to play a factor in that, it becomes complicated. And I know our employers can struggle with that every single day.
Yeah, that's spot on, Phil. I mean, I think Mr. Cuban's desire to push for diversity in hiring is a commendable motive. But in terms of the law itself, Ms. Lucas is correct on the law. And what these two are really touching on is the conflicting and evolving standards of review for acts of discrimination. So, Title VII, as we all know, prohibits discrimination in hiring, firing, promotional decisions, and so forth because of race, sex, religion, other protected class status. But under Title VII in its original iteration, there was some lack of clarity over what it meant to make a decision because of a protected characteristic. Does it mean it just played some role, or does it have to be the reason? But in 1991, Congress has made it clear that it's unlawful to consider race, color, religion, sex, national origin as motivating factors in an employment practice. It doesn't have to be the but-for cause. And that's what Mark Cuban is essentially saying here. If it comes into the equation, that is problematic. His tweet, I think, can be interpreted as saying that race and gender play a role in his decision on who to hire. and that is per se unlawful as under Title VII as amended in 1991. And importantly, I think it's true even if the reasons for it are benevolent. I think that's what your response just now sort of touches on is, his reasons for looking at that are maybe not driven by any kind of ill motive. It may be driven by business necessity as well as creating a diverse workforce, but you are potentially going to step in it if you start to explicitly consider that as part of the decision-making process. So, what's the relevance to employers here? I mean, first, again, critically important that when you're making decisions about hiring, discipline, termination, that their protected status doesn't even enter the room. It doesn't matter in the decision-making process. Certainly don't tweet it out to the world.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things here as an employment litigator is this potential evidence? If Mark Cuban were to be sued for a decision, could this come into the courtroom? I'm sure there would be disputes about admissibility, but it would make for an uncomfortable deposition at the very least. Second, you need to be thoughtful about how you're messaging your DE&I initiatives. By no means does this mean to scrap your DE&I programs. We're a labor and employment law firm, and we very much embrace DE&I internally and with our clients. But it's a fine line to walk, and it's important to know where that line is. And as you mentioned, it can be a gray area. But you can be explicit. You can be explicit about wanting to have a diverse workforce that celebrates diversity, reflects its community, makes people feel welcome. But you got to be cautious about saying things like, we're looking to make sure that X% of our workforce is racially diverse, or we hired a man or we promoted a man last time, so this time it's a woman's turn. I mean, when it comes into the specific decision that's in front of you, you've got big problems. You're likely creating liability under Title VII. So very important things for employers to be cautious about and thoughtful about in implementing their DE&I programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've put a lot of focus on that over our last 266 episodes here and talking just about how we would guide and lead organizations to do that in the most correct way that, helps them achieve the diversity that they should have, reflecting their community and their customer base, as well as, within compliance of the law. And sometimes those can clash for wrong reasons, but we usually find the right solutions to that when we put our minds together. And I think it's a great topic, Justin. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's definitely interesting because it's newsworthy. And when billionaires make the EEOC news channel, that's always an interesting battle, right? Of wits, if nothing else, right? So it's good to watch. I'm glad Mark Cuban stepped out there, and I am just going to step back and just let that one take its own course.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, Justin, that's a great topic. Thank you for doing that today. For everyone, as a reminder, Justin works out of the Ogletree Deacon's office in Indianapolis. It's a strong office there in the center of the country. Partners with Burt Garland here in St. Louis. He serves our members in Indy, helps us with our roundtables there. So if you need any help or assistance, please give Justin a call. He'll be happy to do that. Justin, just remind everyone of your email, if you would, please.
Justin.allen@ogletree.com.
All right. Nice and easy. Justin.allen@ogletree.com. He'll help you out if you have any of those issues, as Bert always does. Thank you, Justin. And I think we are ready to move forward with Mr. Lee Rubin. Lee, welcome. First-time guest on the program.
Yes, excited to be here. Thanks, Phil.
All right. So, Lee, I got something I want to read here. 5 components of extraordinary teams, part of your keynote speech. Machines are evaluated based on the output of the entire unit, not the impressiveness of their individual parts. Extraordinary teams, like great machines, require certain components that hold their pieces together. While most organizations focus exclusively on building the skills of the individual members, and I would say I agree with that. I see a lot of individual team member building. They send one supervisor out of 10 to a program and dip them in to get trained, and then they expect everything to be fixed. So I see a lot of that. You go on to say elite organizations invest in the stuff that transforms a collection of talented individuals into an extraordinary machine-like team. All right, let's start with that. Tell us more.
Yeah. As you commented, I think most organizations really focus on the individual skills of those that are employed there, right? They send this person out for training, or they send this person out for leadership development, and they don't look at the whole, right? And and
Right.
and, and if we're going to develop the team, we can't just have the sprinters in the relay race just focus on their sprints. They've got to work on that baton exchange, right? They've got to work together as a team. And I think the elite organizations really try to develop the team as a whole unit and not just the individual members.
So we this is not a new concept when we say the sum of the parts is greater than, or the sum
The
of,
whole,
yeah,
the whole
the
is
whole,
greater than the sum of the
the
parts.
sum of the parts. That's it. Thank you. And I remember the first time I heard that, right? And I heard that on the football field for the first time for me. And then I heard it in business and I was like, oh, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And it was a very profound statement at the time. Now I'm like, well, of course, everybody knows this, but we don't practice it, right? It's a hard thing to practice.
It is.
So when
Agreed
you're
100%.
working with organizations, tell us, how do you help get that organization to the sum of the parts?
Well, the first is looking at it as a full entity. That that whole perspective is really critical. And then it's developing. Well, it's hiring for and developing within the culture some of those intangibles, what I call the connective tissue, making sure that within our culture we've got people who communicate well, who are willing to make individual sacrifices, and I think most importantly, and this is one of the key elements of my talk, is trust. Developing trust within an organization. If I think trust is the stuff that separates a collection of individuals, a collection of individual talent, and brings them together and makes them a whole unit, a team.
So tell us more about the trust. So organizations either have trust, they don't have trust, they're trying to gain it, or they're losing it. I have found as a CEO, trust is extremely hard to get. It's extremely hard to hold on to.
It is.
Right? Because in one slip of the moment, I lose the trust of the entire organization unintentionally.
Absolutely.
And it's unforgiving. It's unforgiving unless I've held it for a long time.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard a quote recently: "Trust is built in drops, but lost in buckets."
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it takes time. It takes effort after effort, consistency after consistency to build. But it's tough. One misstep and that trust can be lost.
yeah,
But here's what's interesting about your comment is that from a leadership perspective, you're always concerned about the trust of the team towards the leader. But great organizations, high performing teams, it's not just in that direction vertically, it's also horizontally, because team member A has to trust team member B, has to trust team member C. So it's
right,
trust horizontally as well within those team members, because we can all trust, using a football example, we can all trust our coach, but when we're on the field, we've got to trust each other.
right.
And I think the only way to get there is through open and honest communication. And yes,
Yeah.
that's developed because of the leaders' openness and honesty and creating that culture. But there's got to be that horizontal trust as well, because I can't do my job as effectively as I should if I don't trust the people around me.
So how do you suggest, or what's your experience, if I can ask, how you help create that? So, and I'm listening as a student right now, Lee. So as an organization, I can work as the leader to have the team trust me. I step away. I go off campus. I'm on vacation. I'm somewhere else. And now I look back and I'm like, the team isn't working together. And the team isn't trusting each other. How does an organization go about creating that unified trust broadly versus vertically?
Sure. I think this So when I share my keynote, this is my foundational principle. It's how I start my talk. That teams exist because there's a challenge or an opportunity that's too big for one person to handle alone. And the whole point is establishing the fact that we need each other, that there's a level of interdependence that's involved, and that I, as an individual, cannot just come to work, put my blinders on, and do my job. That I'm a
Yeah.
part of a bigger picture. I'm a part of an ecosystem that is dependent on the other pieces, right?
Hmm.
And so within that, we're creating a sense of ownership and a sense of accountability. And so now I'm not just going in doing my job for my paycheck. We're connected in such a way where I need you to do your job and you need me to do my job. So it's not just, okay, the boss says here's my assignment. No, we need each other to get this job done. And so that's the foundation of this culture where, listen, I can speak up, or I can hold you accountable, or I'm not offended when you hold me accountable, because we need each other to get this bigger thing, this common goal done.
You know, I like that one person, necessarily needs that. They need the rest of the team in order to do their job. So we're dealing with a few things here in our organization. We have more projects right now in our business here at AIM that are built upon team collaboration, helping organizations move forward, than we've ever done in my previous 12 years. And yesterday I was speaking with a few of our managers about it. I'm like, why is this happening? Like, how come all of a sudden I have managers within the organization, unsolicited by me, working together and delivering even better solutions on their own? And what it is, first is they like each other.
Yep.
And they found that they have better success when they use the knowledge and experience of each other in doing that. And when they're doing that, they're delivering even a much better product for our members that we serve each and every day. And our members are getting the benefit of it, and they feel really good about that.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not sure I created that. I'm going to take a lot of credit for it, but I'm not
Absolutely.
sure I did it. They have done this on their own, and they started working together. And I'm kind of dissecting it, going, what's happened here? And I'm so proud of the efforts, but it doesn't happen by accident now, does it?
No. And that's the point that I was making earlier. High performing teams, extraordinary teams, it does not happen by accident, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be intention, there's got to be purpose built into this. You've got to understand, every team member has to understand that this is bigger than I can do alone. This is bigger than I can do by myself. And I'm not sure which comes first, right? The chicken or the egg. Do they like each other? Do they like each other first and then figure out, okay, how can we collaborate? Or do they understand, listen, I need you.
Right.
And
Right.
because I need you, I respect what you do. I respect your contribution to the team. I respect my dependence on you. And it's amazing. Relationships change. Relationships are adjusted when there's a level of dependence, right? If I don't need you, I treat you however I treat you. But when I understand that I can't be successful unless you're successful, it changes the dynamic of those relationships.
It definitely does. And I have lots of thoughts. We don't have enough time for me to share all my thoughts in this, because I absolutely love team dynamics. It's what I think really has motivated me in the field that I serve. But I want to get to some of our chat comments here, Lee. I'd like to get some of your opinions. I'll read some of them out loud for everyone. There's a firm belief in reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. With trust, teams have a more open conversation, less conflict to resolve, and ideas and thoughts are freely given because team members feel valued. I really like that comment there in particular.
Yeah. It's funny. I've shared my talk, the team building talk, with sports teams. That was the genesis of this talk. Then with corporations and professional associations. but I've also shared it in marriage workshops, right? Because if we approach our marriage properly, that's a team as well. And there's something that comes up often when I'm talking to families or to couples. The issue is rarely the issue.
That is so true. That is so true.
Most times it's communication about the issue, right? It's how we communicate. And whether it's sports, family, or business, or faith, it doesn't matter. Most people, when we think of communication, think about how well they articulate information, but they neglect to understand that communication works in two directions, right? It's just not how we give information, it's also how we receive it. And the whole idea of listening to understand. And so when we can figure out that open and honest, and as you mentioned, transparent communication, we're intelligent individuals. If we can avoid getting hung up on how we communicate and really listen to understand, I think we're intelligent enough to figure out most of the issues.
Yeah. No, I like, again, it's an old cliche, listening to understand, right?
Yeah.
Not, well, you said this thing, and then I'm going to quote what you said to prove a point, or to say, I fixed that thing you said. Well, you didn't understand what I was trying to say. That's just a simple example.
Exactly.
I'm really trying to say this. And like I say, the issue that we think at hand is usually not the issue at all that we need to go away and work on. Here's a couple other comments. Our chat line has grown, just blown up, Lisa. I want to include you in some comments on it. Just transparency has come up a couple times as a big word. Any thoughts just on transparency?
Yeah, I'm big on open and honest communication. It's got to be respectful and professional, but it's got to be open and honest. That is the only way trust is built. If we feel like our team members, our leadership, or if we're leaders that our team members, those who report to us, so to speak, are not being open, not being honest, not being transparent, we'll be functioning in an environment where we can't give our all, our best. We will continue to protect ourselves, and we might be competent, but we'll never be extraordinary.
Yeah, I think transparency is really tough for our leader, isn't it? And we had on our program here, we had the real Ted Lasso. I don't know if you ever watched Ted Lasso or not.
I have.
But we had the real Ted Lasso on. But what made that program so, I think, so heartfelt and took the country, over in its leadership qualities was he was just so authentically transparent. And he really talked about how he felt. And that created deep-rooted trust, understanding, and he wasn't putting himself above anyone else in that. And when we talked with Coach Donnie Campbell, who is the character that the show was based upon, and Donnie talked a lot about just being transparent and helping people understand, look, we're all humans trying to do something here, and we all live a life. Another thing that we've often talked about, it didn't come up in our chat this time, but we talk a lot about the personal drives the professional.
Absolutely.
What I have going on everywhere else in my life drives who I am at work. Any thoughts on either of those types of comments?
Yeah, we're humans, right? And as well as we think we can compartmentalize, we're humans. And I think it works in both directions, right? How things are at home impacts how things go at work, and how things go at work impact how things go
at home. Oh, you better believe that.
Absolutely. It works in both directions. And when we're part of organizations that understand our humanity, and leaders who are empathetic, again, not just leaders, but team members who are empathetic, it allows us to be who we are. And a phrase I used, we used for years when I worked in HR, we're able to bring our entire selves to work and not have to hide certain realities of there's issues at home, right? To be in an environment and culture where we can be honest and say, hey, listen, I've got some stuff going on here that's impacting my performance.
Right.
And being a part of an organization that understands that and creates that psychological safety where we can be open and honest and not feel like we're in jeopardy of being let go or restricted or held back. That transparency is critical.
Yeah, and you know, I used to not say this comment, and we're getting right up to our time here, but I used to not say, bring your entire self to work.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you got to leave that shit at the door and get in here and just focus on your job. I would bought into all of that, right? Wow, was I wrong? I mean, you can't do it, right? If you got crises in your life or you have disruptions in your life, they're not crises, they're disruptions. You got things on your mind, it affects you at work. And
Absolutely.
Organizations and leaders that can understand that, I notice, have higher functioning teams than those who don't.
Absolutely. Because you feel like you can run full speed.
Whatever full speed is for that day for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Because you're free. There's a level of liberation to be yourself, to be your best. Hopefully you've hired people and there's people on your team who want to be their best. That's right. Foundational, right? That's the starting point. And then when there are issues, we understand because you are giving 100% of who you are that day, every day.
That's right. And 100% can't be 100% of peak performance every single minute of every single shift of every single day.
Yep.
Great stuff. Hey, Lee, how can people contact you if they would like to reach out to you and say hi?
Sure. The best place to go is my website, leerubinspeaks.com. And Rubin is Rubin. There's ways to connect with my LinkedIn page there or shoot me an email. But would love to hear more and answer any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today.
All right. Stay tuned. There's more to come from Lee Rubin in the days and years ahead of us. We've made a new friend here at AIM. Lee, I really enjoyed chatting with you. For all of our listeners, let's take a little bit of Lee's advice. Let's go out and create a better team. And while we do that, let's go out and be good to somebody. Thank you very much. We'll be back here next week at 7:30 Central Time. Bye-bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/This Week at Work, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment. LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere you are. Don't forget you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.